Hello and welcome to Train Room. Today we are not in the train room but at my dealer in Drammen, WMJI, and he has kindly lent us some material to compare because the theme of this video is how to get started with model railroad. So you have seen model railroads and now you want to begin. So how should you do that? So maybe you should first browse a little bit in the net and visit some model railroad shows or clubs and friends. And at some point you have found out what you want. But there is a lot of different stuff on the market. Let's look at the different sizes of model railroads. We have here HO. That's this car and this too. That's the most common gauge. It has over 80% of market share and it is 1 to 87, which means 87 centimeters of reality is 1 centimeter in the model. And then we have these two here and this one. That's scale N. And N is 1 to 160. And it means 1.6 meter of reality is 1 centimeter in the model. It's not very common, but still the second most common, and it's especially in Japan very common because they have very little apartments, so they need smaller model railroads. So it's a thing to go if you want to do Japanese models. And then we have this little car, that's gauge Z. That's 1 to 220. Although 2.2 meters is in reality is 1 centimeter in the model. And then we have the big one here, that's scale G, which is 1 to 22.5, also 22 centimeters in reality is 1 centimeter in the model. This is also known as gauge 2M because this is narrow gauge. And they make most of the market, this scale and gauges. So, but there are some more. There are gauge 1, which is a bit smaller than this one. Then you have gauge O, which is between G and HO, which is 1 to 45. It's in the US you have Lionel trains are this gauge, and in Europe it has end up now as a very high-end gauge with very expensive models. And then you have TT, which is between N and HO, which was very common in East Germany, so you only find German models, and it was in the East Bloc a little bit. And then you have really exotic gauge like S, which is 1 to 64, only seen it in the US, and even smaller than Z like T and ZZ. So if you're not sure yet what to choose, I would go with HO because it's the most common. You will find the most material, and I think in my eye it still has the best ratio between small enough and not too small. So you can have quite a large layout in not too much place. If you really have little place, then I would go with N. It also has quite a lot of choice of models, and it's not too small yet, but it's much smaller. If you have kids, I would definitely go with smallest with HO, because otherwise it's frustrating for the kids. With Z is if you have really little place and you want to build a model railroad in a suitcase or something like that. But if you have a garden which is large, then you might consider scale G, because scale G can go outside. So you build a real railroad outside. And if you want to go this way, I suggest to look at the TV series, you find it on YouTube, by Mark Found, called The Garden Railways. I will put a link to the first episode in the description. Nearly all the gauges, different gauges, they use the power from the rails, and it's usually plus on one side and minus on the other. And For HO there is one exception, that's the manufacturer Märklin. They make rails where the power is taken in the middle and both rails have this minus polarity. Unless you live in Germany or Central Europe, I would definitely go with this system where one rail has plus and one minus. It's usually referred as DC because early days I used DC current to control it, and this one is referred as AC because I used AC current to control it. So, but in the rest of the world it will be difficult to actually get models for this system, except for German, Swiss and Scandinavian trains. So choose this one, and for the others there is obviously no different system, but for size G then you can have real steam trains. So if you want to go that, but that's something completely different than we talked today. Now let's talk about how the trains are controlled. Originally the trains were controlled by controlling the voltage and the polarity of the tracks, and that made all the locomotive in the same section go forward or backwards. And in the 80s came up digital control systems, and basically you have a data stream on the tracks and the locomotive are waiting for packets which are addressed to them, and then they will drive to that speed or so. And today I would not even consider to buy a old, so DC or AC controlled power. It's like comparing using a rotary phone to a smartphone. It's, if anybody comes and says to you, oh, you use a DC power, it's simpler, it just too stupid, just ignore that. It's, I don't even understand why you even consider that. The only reason to use DC or AC powered thing is if you want to do vintage model railroading, like they used to do in the 70s or 60s. But otherwise, go for digital. So, but then for the digital system you have the most common, that's DCC. And you find it everywhere in the world, and that's the way to go. Unless, again, you use Märklin. They have their own system called MXF, or Märklin Digital. And it's actually more advanced than DCC, but it's proprietary. So unless you do Märklin, you can forget that. But even Märklin, they have to support DCC these days because it's so common. It's like Apple, which wanted to make their things, but still had to follow now industry standards. And when choosing your DCC systems, there are lots of different, but I would go with one with a bit more advanced, which allows you to not have to type in the address of the locomotives. It's like, I don't know why it's still sold. It's like when you want to go on Facebook, you would have to look up the IP address and type it there and then surf. I mean, totally unpractical. So my system, I have quite a lot of pictures and I choose a locomotive I want. So now you have an idea what there is and maybe what you want. So how should it get started? And the easiest is to get a start kit. If you want to go in gauge N, you can use this one. And maybe you want to have something more advanced in HO, like this kit, especially good for kids age 6 and upwards, because it has some freight cars and some crane and so on. Maybe you don't want for Märklin, then Rocco is also making something with their digital system. And you want, no, not HO, I don't need HO, I want something bigger. Then you can go for G scale to get what you need. Oh, it's getting full. But then you want some bit more advanced, cars on tracks, so you can go with something like that from Märklin. But also Fleischmann is already vintage because Fleischmann doesn't make HO anymore. This is a bit cheaper because it's not digital. Remember what I told before, you have to go digital. But sometimes you want to get more and they get the kit expansion. So yeah, it's getting full. Don't see me. There is one advantage with all of these kits. They are so versionized. It means the content, if you buy it separately, costs way more. So it's a way to go to at the beginning. And probably you will have to get some more stuff afterwards. But like I said, you have this expansion kits. So, and then what can go wrong when you start with model railroading? So one case is you buy too little, you think a kit like that will be enough, but after 2 months you already have bought 4 additional locomotives, and this system supports only 4 locomotives and you only have 5. So then you have to upgrade the digital system, so you will have been better to spend the extra money and get a kit like that, which supports way more. Or you go for N and then you realize it's too small, then just sell it and buy HO or G-Scaler, depending on what you like. Just don't wait too long until you have too much, because you're going to lose a lot of money if you have to sell after a lot of years. And another thing is, there are some model railroaders that say, oh, I'm waiting for when I'm getting retired. Come on, why should you wait until you're retired to start or build something? Do something now. Don't wait until in a couple of years or even 20 years. I mean, before I had a train home, I built a layout in my living room in the coffee table. I had these train days and so. Just have fun. And if you have kids, let the kids play. They do the difference from you, and if you buy it for the kids, it's for the kid. You just don't buy something for the kid and it's for you. You be honest. And for your wife, you will have to do some convincing, but she will realize that if you like it, she's going to accept it. So that's for today. I hope to see you soon again in the train room.